Have you ever imagined a land made up of thousands of small islands? Islands that stretch wide, like fragments of emeralds scattered along the equator. That land is called the Nusantara. In this land, the sea is not a divider. The sea is a connector. Since the time of their ancestors, the people of Nusantara have lived side by side with the waves and the monsoon winds. They sailed in small boats, relying on the stars, the direction of the wind, and the ocean currents. Each island is inhabited by different tribes. They have their own languages, customs, and beliefs. Some live at the foot of majestic volcanoes, by wide rivers, on quiet shores, and in fertile valleys deep within tropical forests. They live off what nature provides, farming on fertile land, fishing in the rich seas, hunting in the forests, and trading between islands. But nature in Nusantara is not always kind. Volcanoes can erupt without warning. Rivers can overflow. Storms can arrive in the middle of the night. On this land, people live side by side with the forces of nature. Nusantara has long been a land of abundance. Its soil is fertile, its forests dense, its seas teeming with fish, and its waters crossed by ships from distant lands. This is what has always made it attractive to outsiders. Great nations from India, China, Arabia, and even Europe would one day come, seeking to take a share. But before all of that happened, the story of Nusantara began with ordinary people, farmers, fishermen, hunters, and sailors who laid the foundation of the first civilizations. Among them, great kingdoms would rise, wise and cruel rulers would emerge, and tales of war and unity would unfold. This is the land of Nusantara, a nation that has long written its history with waves, soil, and blood. In the past, the monsoon winds carried more than just trading ships to Nusantara. They brought stories, beliefs, and wisdom from distant lands in the north. From India and China came new teachings that slowly touched the islands of Nusantara. In the beginning, the people of Nusantara knew only nature and the spirits that dwelled in the forests, mountains, and rivers. But over time, teachings emerged about mighty gods, about karma, rebirth, and magnificent heavens. The tribal leaders grew intrigued. They heard tales of magnificent kingdoms in India, of kings who were seen as incarnations of the gods, and of towering temples that pierced the clouds. From here, the first civilizations of Nusantara were born. In Kalimantan, the Kutai kingdom was established, the oldest Hindu kingdom in Nusantara. In West Java, Tarumanagara emerged, followed by Sriwijaya in Sumatra, a powerful maritime empire. The Hindu civilization of Java did not merely imitate India. They created a new form, Indian gods were adapted to become more Nusantara in character. Temples were built not only from stone, but also from wood and clay. Art, literature, and systems of governance were born from a blend of foreign teachings and local traditions. Temples were not just places of worship, but also centers of knowledge. Here, the Brahmins taught philosophy, astronomy, and literature. The people of Nusantara began to learn writing, inscribe stone inscriptions, and create manuscripts on law and leadership. This civilization shaped the face of Nusantara for hundreds of years. We can still see its remnants today: stone inscriptions in Kalimantan, statues in Java, and temple ruins hidden in the forests. All stand as witnesses that here a great civilization was once born and thrived. Under the sunlight of Nusantara, the tales of gods, kings, and ordinary people continued to be told. This was the era when Nusantara began to write its name on the pages of history. After hundreds of years of Hindu-Javanese civilization flourishing, a new era arrived when Nusantara began to be known to the world. The sea was no longer just a divider, but a golden pathway for traders. Spices from Maluku, agarwood from Kalimantan, gold from Sumatra, and textiles from Java, all were sought after by foreign nations. Great ports began to emerge. Sriwijaya in Sumatra became a powerful maritime kingdom, controlling the trade routes between India and China. Its sailors were resilient, its ships were large, and its fleet dominated the Strait of Malacca. Not only Sriwijaya, Java also had bustling trading ports. Foreign ships arrived, bringing goods and stories. Traders from Arabia, Gujarat, China, and Persia stopped by, exchanging goods and culture. It was here that Nusantara began to encounter new religions and different ways of life. Spices were the most precious treasure. Cloves, nutmeg, and pepper from Maluku became highly sought-after goods in the global market. Their value could equal that of gold. From Nusantara, these spices were carried to India, then to the Middle East, and eventually to Europe. This trading wealth brought prosperity to Nusantara, but also made it a target. Kingdoms began to compete, seizing ports, fighting over sea routes, and even waging wars against one another. In this era, Nusantara was no longer a remote land. It was a crossroads of the world, a place where East and West met, where traders, monks, sailors, and adventurers gathered, and all of it was bound together by the ever-restless waves of Nusantara. The tales of Nusantara's trading era were not just about spices and riches. They were about the meeting of civilizations, the exchange of cultures, and stories that sailed far beyond the edge of the horizon. In those bustling ports, it wasn't just goods that arrived. New beliefs came as well. Muslim traders from Gujarat, Arabia, Persia, and China stopped by, traded, and married local people. They brought teachings about Allah, the Prophet Muhammad, and about living a balanced life. Not through war, but through kindness. Muslim traders spread Islam through their conduct, through honest dealings, and through marriage ties. Slowly but surely, coastal communities began to embrace Islam without coercion. From port to port, Islam spread in Aceh, Demak, Banten, Gresik, and Ternate. Scholars preached in small mosques, in marketplaces, and in wooden houses. They established peasantron, where children were taught to read the Quran. Islam arrived as a friend, easily accepted because it did not reject local customs. Old traditions were preserved, simply adapted. Traditional ceremonies were given an Islamic touch. The Hijri calendar was used alongside local traditions. Islamic kingdoms began to emerge. Demak became the first Islamic kingdom in Java, followed by Cirebon, Banten in Aceh, and Goa in Sulawesi. They built grand mosques, bustling ports, and powerful naval fleets. The Islamization of Nusantara was not just about religion, it was also about the network of Muslim trade. Nusantara's spices now flowed more easily into the markets of the Middle East, India, and China. The Islamic world became interconnected through the maritime routes of Nusantara. The traces of Islam in Nusantara can still be seen today. Ancient mosques, the tombs of saints, Maulid traditions, old Islamic poems, and the names of old villages. They are the legacy of the meeting of the sea, trade, and faith. By the end of the 15th century, the ports of Nusantara were still bustling. But then, a great ship arrived from another world. It did not come for ordinary trade. They were Portuguese ships, arriving to seize control of the spice routes that connected Europe and Asia. With the intent to control the spice routes, the Portuguese built their first fortress in Malacca. Then they moved eastward into Indonesia, targeting Maluku, Java, and Sulawesi. But they did not come only to trade, they came with weapons. 1511, Malacca fell into the hands of the Portuguese. This was a signal for other European powers to join the hunt for the precious spice trail. Spain, having already taken control of the Philippines, sailed toward Ternate and Tidor, seeking to dominate the spice trade. Not long after the Portuguese, the Dutch arrived with their fleet, driven by a powerful desire to control the spices more valuable than gold. The VOC, Verenigd Oostindische Company, established fortresses from Batavia to Bonda and took control of many trade routes. The Dutch did not come merely to trade, but to survive in fierce competition. Rivalry with the Portuguese, English, and Spanish pushed the Dutch to fortify their strongholds across various regions, embedding their colonial power. It wasn't just traders who came. Colonizers began to build their rule, forcing the people of Nusantara to provide abundant natural resources. The cultivation system was introduced, and the people were compelled to grow spices and crops demanded by the colonizers. It wasn't just Maluku that was rich in spices. Java also became a major trade hub for the Dutch, who continued to develop and fortify Batavia. However, the lives of the local people changed drastically. High taxes, forced labor, and policies that favored the colonizers. As a result, Nusantara slowly began to change. The Europeans did not bring only spices, but also new ways of organizing the economy, power, and daily life. For more than 2 centuries, the Dutch ruled over nearly all of Nusantara. Yet, though it seemed calm on the surface, there was unrest in the hearts of the people. Local fighters, heroes, began to rise one by one. They resisted not only with weapons, but with courage and determination. First, there was Prince Diponegoro from Yogyakarta. In the early 19th century, he led the Java War 1825-1830, one of the largest uprisings against Dutch rule. Diponegoro resisted the Dutch with remarkable strength. For 5 years, he fought against a vastly larger Dutch army. Besides Diponegoro, there was also Tuku Umar from Aceh, who tirelessly resisted the Dutch. His struggle in USA became one of the most legendary in history. He fought using guerrilla tactics, hiding his troops in the forest and launching surprise attacks at unexpected times. But resistance wasn't only through armed struggle. There were many other ways the people of Nusantara fought back. Some resisted through cultural defiance, by preserving their language, customs, and way of life, even as colonial powers tried to impose their own culture. The existing kingdoms also began to resist in their own ways. The kingdoms of Bali, Makassar, and Maluku each had their own strategies to defend their independence. Some even resisted by forming alliances with other European powers. Change was inevitable. The Dutch tightened their grip more than ever. Yet, resistance continued to grow. Heroes like Raden Arjeng Kartini began to inspire the women of Nusantara to fight for their rights and awaken their spirit of empowerment. In the end, even though many of these struggles ended in tragedy, the spirit of resistance never died. Bung, Tomo, Sukarno, and Hatta carried the flame of that struggle to its peak. When the proclamation of independence was finally declared, the people of Nusantara knew that their long sacrifice had not been in vain. With blood, tears, and unshakable determination, Indonesia finally gained its independence. Today, we remember that struggle. Every moment of freedom we enjoy is the result of our heroes' resistance. In 1945, after more than 3 centuries of colonization, a powerful voice echoed in Jakarta. It was not only the voice of the leaders, it was the voice of the people. The voice of a nation that had long yearned for freedom. It was the voice of Sukarno and Hatta proclaiming the independence of Indonesia. At that moment, the world was still in shock. The Dutch, believing they still had rights over the Nusantara, tried to reclaim the territory they considered theirs. But the spirit of independence had already ignited across every corner of the archipelago. The struggle was far from over. The War of Independence had begun. The Battle of Sriwijaya, the clash at Ambarawa, and countless heroes from across the archipelago took part in fierce battles against the far stronger colonial forces. At that time, the fighters were not only battling weapons, they were fighting against time and exhaustion. But one thing they had was an unbreakable determination. In 1949, the Round Table Conference (RTC) was finally held. The Netherlands recognized Indonesia's independence, though it came after a long and arduous struggle. Even so, the battles continued. But with determination and unity, the Indonesian people overcame every challenge. Indonesia's rightful independence was finally recognized by the world. Independence for Indonesia is not just a word, it is the result of a long struggle involving the entire people. Every second, every drop of blood shed has become part of this nation's great history. Today, we live in the freedom that was so fiercely fought for. But the struggle is not over. Our duty now is to safeguard this independence and build a better Indonesia. A new era has begun. Independence is not just about being free from colonial rule, but about the freedom to grow to become a strong and self-reliant nation. If these words resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join us on this journey of exploring deeper thoughts and philosophies, and be part of a community that values reflection and growth. Your support helps us continue bringing more insights that challenge and inspire. Thank you for watching, and remember, keep questioning, keep growing,